Not long ago, I was a poor and humble Jewish woman, but now I have become the queen of the great Persian Empire. Hello, my name is Esther, and thanks to my influence in the kingdom, I was able to save my people from being exterminated. When I heard that the evil Haman was planning the total destruction of all the Jews, I pleaded with King Xerxes to stop our enemy's wicked plan. Haman was hanged on the same gallows he had prepared for my cousin Mordecai. Thanks to my bravery and faith in God, my people were able to protect themselves and survive. My life is a real testament to how one person with courage and determination can change the fate of millions. I invite you to stay until the end to learn the full story of my life and gain valuable lessons for your spiritual growth. My name is Esther, but before destiny led me to the royal palace, I was known as Hadassah, which means myrtle, a plant that thrives best in difficult conditions. Although I am Jewish, I grew up in Susa, one of the largest cities in the Persian Empire, and my childhood was anything but wonderful. I lost my parents when I was young, and Mordecai, my cousin, became my guardian and protector. He not only taught me to read and write, which was unusual for women of my time, but he also instilled in me the traditions and spiritual laws of our people. Life in Susa was a continuous flow of cultures and languages, a convergence of civilizations under Persian rule. Despite our humble status as exiles, Mordecai made sure I knew our history, from the ancient glory of Jerusalem to its destruction and subsequent exile to Babylon. This awareness of my heritage instilled in me a sense of purpose and belonging that would later prove essential in my story. When King Ahasuerus dismissed Queen Vashti for her disobedience, an exhaustive search began throughout the kingdom for a new queen, and I was one of those chosen for this great honor. This event marked the beginning of a series of changes that would transform my life in unimaginable ways. Despite the grandeur and opulent life of the palace, my heart trembled at the idea of having to give up everything I knew. But Mordecai assured me that the moment for which I had been prepared since birth might have arrived. My entry into the royal harem was not just a change of scenery, but also a leap toward a destiny I could never have imagined. As I learned to speak, walk, and dress like a queen, I often found myself contemplating the duality of my existence. Within the palace walls, I am Esther, the young candidate for royalty, but in my heart, I will always be Hadassah, a Jew who dreamed of freedom for her people. This chapter of my life has taught me the importance of remembering who we are and where we come from, especially when we find ourselves at a crossroads in life that could separate us from our origins. I invite you to reflect on your identity. How have the stories of your past and the teachings of your parents prepared you for the challenges you face today? Like the myrtle, we can thrive in all kinds of opportunities and preserve our essence even in the most challenging environments. My first journey into the palace began with hesitant but determined steps. As I delved into the complexities of life in King Ahasuerus' harem, I found myself surrounded by the most beautiful maidens from all over the kingdom, all eager to win the king's favor. But unlike many others, I had a deeply buried secret, an identity hidden under the name of Esther, which Mordecai advised me to keep secret. Every day in the palace, there was a luxurious parade and strict etiquette rituals. The servants taught us how to behave before the king, how to speak, how to walk, and most importantly, how to always remain elegant. Each of us was subjected to a year of preparation, 6 months of myrrh oil and 6 months of perfumes and cosmetics before having the opportunity to meet King Ahasuerus. When my turn finally came, I felt scared but determined. As I walked toward the royal chamber, I thought of Mordecai's words, which sounded like a spell of power and determination. Meeting the king was not just an introduction, but a test of my ability to connect on a deeper level despite the barriers and protocols. King Ahasuerus, whose presence was as formidable as the story suggested, was surprisingly cautious. My approach was not just to show my outer beauty, but also to convey a calmness and maturity that deeply touched him. There was something in our interaction that exceeded normal expectations, and when he chose me as his queen and placed the royal crown on my head, I knew my life would change forever. Amid my new responsibilities, I wondered about the role I would play as queen. How could a young Jew, secretly, have a positive influence on the Persian Empire? This chapter of my life emphasizes the importance of maintaining authenticity and grace under pressure. What do you think are the moments in life that define you? Can you remain true to your values and yourself even in situations that challenge your identity and beliefs? Let my royal status inspire you to believe in the power of your environment and the possibility of change, no matter how great or frightening it may be. Shortly after my coronation as Queen of Persia, a threat arose at court that would test my courage and ingenuity. Haman, the king's prime minister, was an ambitious and cunning man, famous for his ability to manipulate power for his personal gain. His influence over the king was considerable, and at the same time, his disdain for the Jews was profound. The conflict that sparked this entire problem began insignificantly when my cousin Mordecai refused to bow down to Haman, as according to Jewish law, one can only worship God. This disobedience, though seemingly petty, hurt Haman's pride, and when he learned that Mordecai was Jewish, he sought not only to punish him but also to exterminate all the Jews in the kingdom. Haman persuaded King Ahasuerus to decree this genocide, considering it a political necessity to ensure the stability of the kingdom. The king, unaware of his queen's Jewish identity, agreed to Haman's request and sealed the decree with his royal ring. When the news of the order reached my ears, I was very frightened. The thought that my people, including Mordecai, who had raised me as his daughter, could be destroyed was unbearable to me. But at that moment of great despair, I also felt a clarity of purpose that I had never known before. My position in the palace, which had once been a source of fear and unease, now revealed itself as a platform from which I could attempt to save my people. In the following days, I reflected on the danger I faced if I intervened in the situation. Approaching the king without an invitation could result in death, even for the queen. However, the gravity of the situation required urgent action. Inspired by Mordecai's courage, I decided I had to act, believing that my position as queen would at least give me the chance to change the king's heart. This episode of my life highlights a truth we all face: the most important moments in our lives often require us to take great risks. Have you ever faced a decision that could completely change your life? Do you dare to risk everything for what is right? Let my story inspire you to act with courage, especially in situations where so much is at stake. In times of crisis, the brave actions of an individual can change the course of history. In this decisive chapter of my life, I faced the greatest challenge of my life. Knowing that my people's existence was in danger, I decided I had to act, even at the risk of losing my own life. The days leading up to my intervention were marked by intense prayer and fasting. Our entire Jewish community in Susa, invited by Mordecai, joined in prayer to ask for courage and God's protection. With a racing heart, I dressed in my best royal robes and made my way to the throne room, where no one, not even the queen, could enter without a direct invitation from the king. Every step resonated with the weight of potential death. However, when I entered the room, King Ahasuerus extended the golden scepter to me as a sign that he would spare my life. I seized this kind gesture and invited the king and Haman to a banquet I had prepared. My strategy was to buy time and create an environment where I could expose Haman's plot without putting him directly on the defensive. At the first banquet, I saw Haman relax, unaware that his end was near. Curious about my request, the king asked what I wanted, as he was willing to give me even half of his kingdom. I decided to realize my wish by inviting them to another banquet the next day. That same night, the king couldn't sleep, so he read the kingdom's history books and discovered that Mordecai had saved his life from a previous plot and had not been justly rewarded. The next day, at the second banquet, when the king repeated the question about my request, I finally revealed my Jewish identity and the mortal danger threatening my people due to Haman's order. This news surprised the king, who went out into the garden to think for a while. When he returned, he found Haman pleading with me to spare his life and overstepping his bounds, which only worsened his situation. This period of my life demonstrates the importance of cunning and courage. How do you overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles in your life? Are you finding creative and bold ways to solve your problems? My encounter with the king showed that sometimes courage is not enough. We must also have the wisdom to plan carefully and choose the right moment to act. Let my story inspire you to always seek wisdom and courage, not only to face life's challenges but also to transform them into opportunities to grow and protect the common good. After revealing my Jewish identity and exposing Haman's wicked plot to King Ahasuerus, I witnessed a dramatic event that changed the future of the Jews in Persia. The king's wrath against Haman was fully unleashed when he realized the extent of his betrayal. Haman was executed on the same gallows he had prepared for Mordecai, my beloved cousin and mentor, whom Haman despised but who never ceased to act with honesty and loyalty to secure success for me and our people. With Haman's downfall, Mordecai was elevated to a high position, taking Haman's place and receiving the royal ring. However, Haman's original decree, which called for the extermination of the Jews, was still in effect, as under Persian law, the king's decrees were irrevocable. So we sought a solution that could save our people from death. With the authority granted to Mordecai, we issued a new decree authorizing the Jews to defend themselves against any attack. This action not only saved countless lives but also allowed the Jews to establish a position of authority and security within the kingdom. The final victory was marked by the establishment of an annual festival called Purim, which commemorates these events and celebrates the salvation of our people from destruction. Each year, as we celebrate Purim, we remember the importance of courage, faith, and divine providence in our nation's history. My story, recorded in the book of Esther in the Bible, highlights several important lessons. The first is that true courage often requires taking significant risks. Second, justice can prevail even in the most difficult situations. And third, each of us has the opportunity to influence the course of history if we are willing to act in defense of justice and truth. Think about areas of your life where you may be called to act with courage. Where can you make a difference today? How can you promote justice and well-being in your community? My story inspires us to actively participate in creating a more just and compassionate future. You can read more about these details in the book of Esther, which not only recounts my rise to royalty but also how God acted in extraordinary circumstances to protect his people. As I close this chapter of my life, I encourage you to consider how to apply these lessons to your spiritual journey. May my story awaken in you a brave heart, a firm faith, and a renewed commitment to act with determination and compassion. Now, I invite you to click on the video that appears on your screen to discover the epic story of Noah, a man of great faith who overcame impossible challenges. Immerse yourself in a story of survival and hope as Noah builds an ark in a context of disbelief and saves his family and all his animal friends from a devastating flood.